And here we are on a fantastic, what is this, April?
Yes.
April something evening in the Real. My name's Eric, I'm back again.
This is Jen.
And Jen's here. We are doing a tandem podcast today. Our other host, Cheryl, Jen's sister, is out earning money for me because she owes me. So she's at work.
Just the two of us.
That's right. Just the two of us.
I couldn't even get the tone right. I was thinking about it in my head, and then I was like, all of a sudden I got lost the second I get nervous as soon as I open my mouth.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It doesn't help that you're recording this like by film too, and I can't help but think that I'm portraying myself as a freak, not only on the microphone, but also now on video.
Sure.
Double
I can
freak.
understand.
How's it going?
I was going to point that out. I got the video camera playing, so if you are listening to this one and you see any part of video, this is the first time we're trying it, and yes, as pointed out, we are in a basement, the basement of our home. We have our wine here. This is great. The computer screens are over here, and it's just a antique table from Jen's dad that we're sitting at. Nothing spectacular in the basement of our home. Speaking of our home, we did a lot of work today outside.
Oh, yeah.
We did some remulching. Jen got some mulch, went to the store, got that, some dirt for some planters, and I hosed down the sidewalk in the driveway from all the dog piss and shit from accumulation over the winter. The dust and dirt and soot from our fires out front once in a while, and washed down the driveway in the sand and the ice melt shit.
Now, you did a lot.
So, hosed out the carpet too, so that should be dry. Move that back. But gosh, what else did we do out there? You went on a ride with your horse.
I actually didn't ride him today.
Okay.
Because I was, going to either go to your dad's tomorrow or ride my horse, and it turns out since you didn't make plans with your dad, I'm going to go see my horse tomorrow. So I didn't really know how it was going to go, but today he was just kind of feeling like, woohoo! So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to hang out with him. We're just going to have fun. I didn't really have a plan. I didn't go out there with a plan. You're supposed to have a plan. I was just like, let's just see what hits us. And it just didn't feel like it was a riding day, so I went out there and I cleaned him up, took him out, and just enjoyed hanging out with him while he was eating grass. Took him back to the pasture and decided to hang out with him there, where he proceeded to ask me to massage him all over by moving certain parts of his body into me, like scoot up a little bit when I was petting his head so I could pet his neck, then scoot up a little bit further so I could focus on his shoulder and kind of lean into me like, oh yeah, well he's doing the little lip thing, the more, that thing that horses do. And then he kept doing that with different parts of his body until he finally got to the butt, because that's the big payoff for some reason, is the huge, that's like the biggest thing in the world to him, is like, scratch my butt and I'm just going to pass out.
That's Shangri-La right there.
Pretty much. So he's falling asleep while I'm scratching his butt.
So if I shove my back into you and purse out my lips more and more, you'll rub my back.
I would at least understand what you're asking me.
That's perfect. Oh gosh, so we God, what else did we do outside today? We did a bunch of. I cleaned the garage while you were gone. I threw a lot of old shit out. I had stuff from when my dad had them from when I was a kid. I don't know why. I was a fucking can of nails. Told you that. I was like, what the hell? Yeah. The one and last thing that I shingled, I bought nails for. I didn't even use them. So
and that was over
15 years ago.
16 years ago.
Yeah.
Isn't it 16 years this year?
This might be 15.
No, because it's 2015. We met in 99.
Right. So, yeah, it could be 16.
It's going to be 16 years in August, which is when you were building that, isn't it?
Right. I believe so.
Yeah.
And so that, and, my dad got them before I was born, maybe. So, those things been around for a while. I'm sure he got them from my grandpa, who accumulated them way before my mom and dad ever got married. So, them fucking things are probably 60 years old anyway. So what's the point?
Well, my dad's an electrician, right?
Right.
And because my dad knew electrician work and he also knew construction, my grandpa would always have him come over and do repairs on the house and everything, right? So Every weekend my dad would go over there and do repairs. The problem was that my grandpa didn't want to spend any money, spending his time in the Depression.
Sure.
You don't throw anything away. So
right.
You're talking about, basically Dad said all of his tools, all of the nails, nothing matched. Everything was just a hodgepodge of shit. duct tape, whatever you can't you use duct tape for that? And finally, Dad was like, I'm not coming over here again until you buy some decent materials and tools, okay?
I think he was telling us a story once about that when he was wiring something.
Yeah.
And your grandfather came out with this box of pieces of wire. And under the impression that, what do you do this? We need to go, I don't know, the distance 10 feet and we're going to put, 57 pieces together to make it? What the hell's this about, It's just like, what the hell? It's like, yeah, I think we can drop the $20 and get a piece of wire we need, It's unbelievable. And I found myself doing that. I was going through some of that stuff and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, yes, I could maybe use this. I haven't in 15, 20 years since I've ever accumulated it myself. This shit needs to go. I don't even know what this plug is for. Mm-hmm. I had this wiring harness. I don't know where the hell it came from. And I was like, I threw it away. I got I did keep the trailer one. And the dumb thing about it is it goes to a car. Mm-hmm. So the trailer would plug into this to a car. Well, the trucks we have plugs that adapt to the type of plug, so that wire is useless unless I'm going to put a hitch on a car and I need a wiring harness. It's completely useless. It really is. But I didn't want to get rid of it just in case. And the only reason why I justified it was I had space in the box, so it wasn't going to matter. So I put it in there. And I kept this 8-inch piece of 3-wired heavy cable, and no use for it. It can't go anywhere. But I'm using one to hold something up to hang on to something. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll use it for that. So and it's in a box on a shelf where I can't see it. Odds are I'll never fucking pull it out of there.
You do kind of have some weird hoarding
I do.
tendencies.
I do.
Because isn't there a giant box of like electronics or speakers, something or the other underneath the stairs there?
There was.
You're never gonna fucking use it.
There was. The ones I think you're talking about that were in a box.
It was a giant box.
Yeah, I gave to Justin.
Oh, good. You got rid of it.
Yep, and he said it didn't work. I think it's just a setting on there. I don't know if he got rid of it or not, but it probably works fine. But I have 2 of those sets of stereos, and I have the other one yet. Mm-hmm. And it's not in a box, it's just stacked up in our new closet with all these speakers that I'll probably never plug in again. But
never again, because they're old and gross and nobody would ever use them.
They work fantastic.
They work fantastic, but they look like they're from the fucking 70s. Nobody would want that in their house.
Oh my gosh, they are not that 70 looking.
They look like they're from the 70s. The wood outline, the very square, sharp edges that when you ran into it, it would stab you. I know, my parents had them.
Well, at the same time, we do have some old equipment that we even display, and some older video cameras and cameras, things like that, that we don't use, we'll never use. And part of it is I don't want to get rid of the stuff because of it's older equipment that you're not going to see anymore, and it has that
it's vintage
appeal to it.
So if we brought it down here, which is turning into being our vintage room, considering we have both my parents' antiques that they couldn't take to their new places, they're like, here, you can have this. So we have all these antiques down here that so far don't go together because it's not like we have a couch or anything down here yet. We just weren't really prepared.
And we have a nice round table.
Round table. We have a square table right over there.
Yes, and a square one.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Buffet table, a chest, chairs.
That's right.
Chairs from 2 different sets, which is lovely.
Yeah. Well, that one there goes with that one, the square one.
These 2.
Yeah.
Go with that one. There used to be 6, by the way.
Well, there's only 3 now.
Yeah, there's 3.
There's one in the garage.
And then Dad has all 4 to this round table, which is what it came with.
Right.
Still doesn't look like it matches, though. It kind of looks like a homeless person did it.
Yeah. Well,
the detail.
It is.
Not saying that like disparagingly. Just that's awesome that they can get a job.
Who, homeless people?
Yeah, like it just looks like somebody was just kind of like, let's just put this together real quick. I don't have the same tint between these 2 chairs, but it's close enough.
Oh, I got you. These older ones there, yeah. One was probably sitting in the sun longer than the other or some shit.
Could be.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Gosh, what were we doing? Yeah, clean up the garage, things like that.
Yeah,
worked on the boat a little bit. And
sorry.
Yeah, got a lot of stuff done and got to play with your wagon a little bit and had fun. And then tomorrow you're going to go on a horsey ride. I'm going to do some trimming, pull some plastic, enjoy our nice weather before we get a storm.
Horsey ride. I'm going on a trail ride for anybody out there that understands horse lingo.
Right.
Horsey ride sounds like fucking pony ride. I can go in a circle.
Enjoying some
pay a
wine
dollar.
in our evening. Had a cigar earlier. Now it's cold. Windy as shit.
We're trying to enjoy the outdoors as much as we could, but it was windy as hell. So we were trying to ignore the wind.
Yeah, it wasn't helping.
Yeah.
But our topic, other than our joyous day today, what did we want to maybe discuss?
First topic is live music and musicians.
Yeah, live music and musicians. Fantastic. We, my perspective, we come from a bit of a musical background.
Mm-hmm.
Years goes back a generation. Mine does not. Always liked music, like most people do, and started playing the piano in college, and loved it. I still have it, and surprisingly, every once in a while, I start thinking, I need to go play with that. I need to go play with that. But I know I'll get engulfed with it, and I'll put every other project that I've been doing on hold because that'll start consuming my time. So I've been like throwing it off. But
You should do it because you're really good at the piano.
yeah, I like playing it. I do.
You're very, very good at it. Like more so than people are like, I like playing the piano. That's not you. You have more talent than that.
Oh, well, thank you. You're so kind. It was exciting to learn it, and I felt that I learned a lot very quickly, and the things that I learned were like faster than my brain could really comprehend what I was doing. You know, I was learning those big pieces, and in the first year of even learning how to play it, so it was exciting for me to learn that. So I like it, and playing with audio equipment and listening to music, growing up in that '80s era, that fantastic music.
Music was fabulous in the 80s.
Absolutely.
I know people will argue with people that say that. I'm not taking away from like the 50s and the stuff like that. I'm saying that the music in the 80s was like turning a corner and opening a whole new door that hadn't been opened before. So I say, and I know you say, that the music in the 80s was so fun and exciting. It was just like, yeah, bring it on, A lot of different things popped up. So I enjoy that. So I understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I know some of the people would like to argue,
Right,
I understand that. But I think that people that do that might have a little bit closed-mindedness.
Oh, sure.
To them.
Or quite possibly they're focusing on a genre or a period of time and not expanding to everything else that
Or trying to make it a comparison. And it's like,
Sure.
yeah, like the Beatles, they changed, Elvis, they made huge, significant changes to music. But the 80s as like a generation changed music.
Absolutely.
So
I would agree with that
that's kind of how I
statement.
view it.
Sure. And we've talked about this before, and I'll speak my side of the fence, because you brought up the Beatles. You have to give credit to that musical group on the milestones and the steps forward they made with their music and their popularity. I don't like them.
I fucking hate them.
I can't stand. I'm not gonna. I will say the Beatles suck, but that's because I don't like them. And even by saying that, I take nothing away from the credibility they have
Correct.
for the change that they instilled in the movement of creating different styles of
That's
music.
the thing, is they brought a whole new thing. They introduced like this entirely new thing. I understand the credibility and what they brought to the table was amazing. But
Absolutely.
my personal taste, I fucking hate them. I have nothing good to say about any of their music that I've listened to. And I can't say I didn't like any of the band members either because they brought the whole fucking drug phase with it.
Sure. and I hear what you're saying, but I will admit there are some songs that they do that I don't mind, that I do actually like. Does that make me a Beatle fan? No, not at all.
But see, I'm biased. So as soon as I know it's the Beatles, I shut the radio off. I'm not kidding. I will shut it off. There are songs I will listen to. I'll be like, I hate this fucking song, but I listen to it. With the Beatles, I shut it off. It's gone for at least 3 to 5 minutes.
That's so funny. And moving on, even from the Beatles, you have the advancements from there on the R&B that came out. into the new rock and roll phase. Yes, I would love some of that fantastic St. Clair wine. Little plug.
St. Clair Winery, New Mexico.
Yay. And then you get into the Elvis. I don't know, I'm skipping generations of music there, but the 50s rock and roll. I know you don't care much for, if at all, for that particular genre of the 50s. I really like a lot of that 50s music.
It's, you know what it is? It's the soda pop shit.
Right, and that's a lot of what it was. I mean, for that era of time, that's what life was for your younger generation. It was going to the soda shop and that music that drove you there, and that's what it was. But not to say that's what it was about, but that's what it related to.
And it's not that I
can't
can't appreciate it. I just have to be in that mode.
Sure.
I have to be like craving to listen to that. Otherwise, if I just hear it out of the blue, I'm like, dear Lord, change the fucking channel. And I don't know why I get like that. I'm very particular with what I'm listening to. I know it's an oxymoron considering all the people that I think about that are out there listening to me right now and thinking maybe I should turn this off until she's done talking. It's just my thought process.
Sure. But you move from there into the 60s to the 70s. The 70s, to me, some of the music that I can relate to back to the 70s, not a lot of it really struck me, but the disco stuff
I like the
is
disco.
fun to hear.
I like it.
That era, but some of it was just not that
Stupid.
great. Yeah.
And lame. And like my mom said, there's not much good that came out of the 70s, except for the kids that were born.
Sure.
And she only said that because I was born in the 70s.
Well, at least she was thinking of it. But then, as we're pointing out, when you hit the 80s, my gosh, it was like things opened up. And something that I read, this movie that I watched this morning called Love Lines from the 80s.
Ah, yes.
There was this thing I read about it, and I think it was on a YouTube video that I watched, had to do with, if you've never seen the movie Love Lines, it's this little teeny movie, high school movie, but it's got this music in it. And it was got a little bit of this dancing, and break dancing was involved and things like that. And so it was really this high school stuff to do with the 80s. And it depicts it pretty well on the way high school kids were in the 80s. And somebody had wrote this thing in there, and I don't remember it word for word, but they referred to this really showed what the 80s was about. The creativity, the originality, and the music of the 80s were in this movie. Mm-hmm. This movie didn't do very well. It was an HBO thing. It didn't get far. Had a couple of pretty good actors that are popular today, but it was honestly a stupid movie. But I grew up with it, so I liked it. And it really pointed out that was that originality back then versus what you have today. It's not that there isn't originality in things, but it's so
much.
scarce. But back then, everything had this originality to it. How many movies can you come up with today that relate to the teenage era on what's going on, and the teenage era existing with this booming music, this cool dancing stuff, and everybody just wanting to be popular and warring against schools without it being violent? It was just this popularity contest. Not saying that's the best way to go. A lot less harm than what's going on today. So it really showed that era, and that statement that I read was just perfect to that.
And in not so much of a bubblegum fashion, because what I noticed when the boys were growing up in the 90s to the 2000s, and they're watching the teenage movie or shows that are out there now today, trying to depict what the teenage lifestyle is about. The 80s had a lot more grit and reality to it.
Sure.
Now these little shows are kind of like, oh, we can't show that. Oh, we can't show that. Oh, we can show this. But then all the actors have to be like, oh my God. And like it's a huge deal. When in high school, it's not. Everybody's a dick in high school, you know?
Absolutely.
So to have that reality there, like the 80s did, it's non-existent anymore.
Right.
Because, now we have to be sensitive to bullying
right.
and sensitive to what we eat and sensitive to, anybody calling anybody names when that happens every day.
Right. No, we talked about that in the past, the things that we grew up with and the histories of terms like queer, faggot, and homo. Mm-hmm. We grew up with those words not being derogatory toward anybody and their personal choices. Of just looking at somebody.
We used it all the time.
You were just telling somebody they were being stupid or that was dumb, and that was it. It wasn't to hurt anybody's feelings, even though, yeah, you have to admit that it was going to at some point hurt somebody's feelings. You calling them stupid or something was just ridiculous, and them taking it personally in that light. But it wasn't to intentionally hurt somebody's feelings about a personal choice of, say, homosexuality, which
it was just a very poor descriptive that we are used to using,
right?
And unfortunately, still use from time to time,
right?
Right. Because I still say, "Oh, that's fucking retarded" all the time.
Right.
Do I mean that anything derogatory towards people that are mentally challenged? Absolutely not. I would never do anything to hurt somebody that was mentally challenged. I would want to do everything I could to help them. I would never say, "Oh, you're fucking retarded." That'd just be mean. Just sticking a knife through my fucking throat. That's just...
Sure.
Who could do that? I couldn't even survive the guilt from doing that. So when I say that, I don't mean it in that context. That's just kind of what I grew up with, and my mouth just goes.
Right.
Da, da, da,
but like you're pointing out, the day and age, that's a big deal.
Big deal now, right?
A lot of stuff like that, I say it's a big deal because people make it into a big deal and it doesn't need to be. And that's, going to an area where we're not really talking about. Back to the music stuff.
Well, so this was the point, is talking about the high school thing, is like, so I was a huge dork in high school, right? Mm-hmm. I played the flute.
Sure, yes, your musical background stuff, yeah.
Could you think of more 80s, meant gay in my terminology here, instrument to play with? Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
Can you think of a gayer instrument, if we're using the term back in the 80s? A more, like, wussy instrument than the flute.
My goodness, the oboe?
That's a big fucking honking thing. I don't know. It might be kind of...
Still phallic, isn't it?
It's very phallic, but... Play the flute. I think the only thing worse I could play is the piccolo.
There you go.
Yeah.
No shit. Mm-hmm. But, when you mentioning that, in the 80s, what were all kids pushed to do was be in band,
oh yeah, you had to be in
orchestra.
band class or orchestra or do something else, which I didn't want to do, which is why I joined band. And I don't really remember that choice. Do you remember that choice? Did you have to join band?
No,
Then what did you do? Like workshop or something? I don't know.
Well, in middle school, junior high back then,
right.
We got into stuff like that. But in elementary, I tried playing the violin.
I did too.
And I only I can admit the only reason why I wanted to do that was to get out of class, and didn't really learn a freaking thing about it because my whole school experience was poor, so that was the only driving force. So it had nothing to do with the violin thing.
Can I stop you right there for a second?
Sure.
I did play the violin too, and we actually have video proof from my dad's videos.
Yes, you told me about
where my playing is so horrible, even as a child. All right, as a child practicing, they're having me play on film, and my dad is shaking the camera with every note, and the camera's going. He's shaking on purpose, but it was a perfect reaction. Now that I'm an adult, it's like that is hysterical because it was awful. It was fucking torture. And he was about my age, and I'm like, you know what? I'd probably do the same fucking thing, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
It was awful. And Mom would be like, you have to do a song, da 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 da, and I'd be like, no, you have to pause in between each note because I'm an idiot, and I know better than my mother, even though I'm like 4. So yeah, I tried the violin too, but we have video evidence of how bad I was at it. So glad I didn't continue on with that.
You growing up playing musical instruments, getting a musical feel, and when I grew up, like other than the violin experience, or lack thereof, my musical history was just listening to music, and that's it.
You guys didn't have to do the recorders? Because we all had to do the recorders in 4th grade.
In elementary school, we practiced them, but in our music class, not everybody got one, only a select few people. And yeah, you went to class, and they only had but maybe a dozen or so recorders, but a class of 25 people. So the teacher would select people to go play while we were learning the song. And then the next week for you had music, different people would go and get a chance. And through all of that, for the concert that was getting put on, she would have picked the people that were doing the best, and there was no way I was ever going to be part of that. So
okay.
It didn't ever come to that. And honestly, I remember holding it and maybe blowing through it. Other than that, I couldn't tell you what kind of noises I was making. And thinking back to it now, I almost want to vomit because they weren't washing those things off in between.
They're supposed to be. There's a water that you're supposed to put them in.
Yeah, no, not my school.
Oh boy.
No, nothing like that.
You
was
grew up in the
happening.
rich bitch area. I was in the inner city, and we
Yeah.
had the fucking buckets that you'd put them in, upside down with the bleach water. Oh wow.
No, not my school. But yeah,
Nobody has herpes up in there.
and they had like these xylophones and shit like that. People would go up and play. And I think I got picked once forcefully, and because of my horrid upbringing and school experience, when it was come time to play the notes and hold those damn things in my hands, I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, because I never paid attention. I didn't know. So when it came time to play the music, I was just like, what do we do? And it's like, come on, Eric, get it. And I'm like, what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
God.
So then it was
Awful.
somebody else come down to me go back up to the riser. So, that was,
That's awful.
oh yeah, it was a good time. We got forced to sing in there, stuff like that, and I'd rarely sing either. And even in choir in middle school, oh jeez, got in so much trouble. So I wouldn't sing. I was just like, no, I'd sing and the people next to me would tell me I sound like shit. And not like, you're not sounding well, and like, you're a fucking idiot, and you sound stupid, that kind of thing. It's like, why would I want to say anything? So I was never involved in concerts and crap like that because I wouldn't go. I was required to go, but I wouldn't go because
I wish I could
didn't
have
want to
gotten away with that.
participate.
I had to fucking go. That's still awful though.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Ugh.
But a whole different subject on that deal. So, yeah, so my musical background growing up, yours growing up, that's great. Beyond that, that's as far as mine went until my college time of playing an instrument that turned out well. But you grew up more with music around in your family. You would sing karaoke in bars or karaoke, however you pronounce it.
Even before that, it's karaoke, by the way. Anybody that wants to sound intelligent, it's not karaoke. There's not extra letters. It's karaoke. But even before that is my dad was, a guitar player when I was little. And so he would play guitar and we would go to church and we would sing at church. Like our family would put on a little production for the whole church.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
So we would do stuff like that. And when I was a little bit older, I'd kind of tinker with things, like my sister played saxophone for a while. She played clarinet first, which I played with that. Saxophone, I played with that. But my mom worked at the church, so we would go there and we'd play with the pianos. There was 3 of them. So me, my brother, and sister would pick them from 3 different rooms and all play together, which I'm sure drove my mother insane considering she was trying to work. And it's very echoey in a church.
Sure.
But, so I kind of taught myself how to play certain things on the piano and actually sound okay. And then after the whole recorder, which I was pretty good at. I was pretty good at the recorder. And then I was pretty good at the flute. It just kind of seemed blowing instrument where you're funky with holes, with your fingers. Okay, I can do that. But I'd always play by ear. I don't read music. I've never read music. I've always pretended to read music. I remember one time the guy sitting next to me and said, I want you to try something new, and I'm like, oh fuck. And so the teacher's sitting next to me, and every time I'd miss a note, he's like, no, you gotta do B or whatever. Well, I knew what B was. Oh, okay. I think he kind of knew that I couldn't read music.
Sure.
but I was really good at it, so I got a solo. I was like, okay. And then when I was older, when Josh and Justin were getting into music, I took Justin to guitar lessons, which I also took with him. And then I continued on when Justin got bored. So yeah, I've always had like a little bit of thing. I love playing instruments. I love singing. I don't know if I'm really good at any of it, but I love it. And it turns out my dad's real good at it because, like I said, he's been playing guitar since he was little, taught himself. And then when he grew up, like to the point where I was an adult, realized that his self-taught kind of ways may not have been correct. So then he went way back to the beginning and relearned how to play the guitar.
Right.
And now he's a fantastic musician. And it's kind of interesting to have that in the family and have the other side of musicians. We all go out and we're like, music's so awesome, it moves us, it you feel something from it. It literally draws something from down on your toes out throughout your body, and you're just like, yes, when you really feel something. But to actually see the other side of it, I think that's been really interesting for me. I don't know how you feel about that.
It's exciting for me to be able to say I know a musician, because I consider your dad to be a musician. Retired from jobs, stuff like that, but I think even before that I would have considered him to be a musician,
Right.
because he is very good at what he does.
Yeah.
And he takes it serious, but doesn't take himself overly serious. So when I say he takes it serious, it matters to him to be correct,
Good.
and precise,
Right.
very anal in that manner.
Right.
And because we've gone to his gigs and whatnot, and he's pointed out this, I didn't like this or whatever, and I know what he's talking about because I've heard it, and you're like, I didn't hear a thing, and most of the people don't hear it, but I know what he's saying, because I recognize that too. Because perfection is what he's driving for, is what you're saying, and so I hear what he's talking about. And at that time, quick story, that drummer was just horrendous. And we're like, well, he seemed a little off. No, that fucker was horrible. And your dad was angry about
he was
that
pretty
because
pissed off.
that guy was horseshit. I couldn't believe he was up there playing. I'm like, who the fuck is it? What is wrong with this guy? I'm not a professional by any means when it comes to music, but I know what a beat is. And that guy had no idea, and he was the fucking drummer. He's supposed to know what the beat is. And that guy's just way off.
And I knew something was off. I mean,
Yeah.
I could tell. I was like, this is kind of weird. But the part that the audience doesn't see is the part that I'm talking about that intrigues me, is that Dad was pissed off because this guy came recommended from another one of his buddies who was playing with my dad that night as being a good drummer. And my dad's
Right.
like, I'm playing with you. You're a good musician. How the fuck do you not know this guy's an idiot? And that happens a lot.
Right.
But the audience doesn't see that. You only
Right.
get that from the backside.
And as you pointed out, you noticed something was off. Most of those people
They don't.
probably
right?
had no idea what was going on. They probably sounded like something didn't sound right, but beyond that, they probably thought about it for a half a second and let it go beyond that.
Oh, one of the old drummers that my dad used to work with used to say the masses are asses.
Yeah. So true.
It is true.
But yeah, that guy was off.
And he said that
awful.
to make me feel better because I played rhythm to smoke. Or actually, I played lead guitar to Smoke in the Water and didn't do the lead guitar at all. I just did rhythm because I didn't know what I was just fucking around with my dad's new guitar.
Right.
And all of a sudden the band sneaks up on stage and we're doing
right.
the fucking song. And I'm like,
That
are
was
you
so
kidding?
awesome.
It was not awesome. I was shitting bricks and you guys everyone's laughing at me.
You went up with
oh.
your other friends group too.
Linda.
Yes, and
But-
did some rhythm. See,
But I did rhythm too, and that was oh god, what was that song? I remember it was Sweet Home Alabama.
Yes.
Yes, I did rhythm to Sweet Home Alabama, but see, I knew that song, so I was comfortable with it, and I looked super hot that night with my tight shirt and my little jean skirt and my 6-inch Manolo Blahniks that you bought me.
5-inch, I think there. Yeah.
Okay, 5-inch purple Manolo Blahniks with the little chains hanging down.
Right.
I looked hot that night. I was like, oh, right. Yeah. So that night I was like, all right, I feel good. I didn't do it as well as like the regular guitar player would do because I only know the notes I know.
Sure, but masses or asses, nobody knew the difference.
And we were in a
Sounded
bowling
great.
alley.
But yeah, so you grow up with your dad's musical background, his talents, his workings, and evolving over to that, just still within the family. Then your dad's in a band. He has a band. He plays in a band.
Well, not
and
only
travels.
that, he's like super well known now.
Yeah, now he's really up there.
He's putting gigs together and like actually huge events together, which he's becoming a huge name.
Right, and not I don't want to spread too much of
Nope.
it, but I remember you were talking about that stuff recently at a gathering, and he's trying to put together something and also create some kind of an organization out of it as well.
Oh, he's already got an organization.
Okay, and I don't want to get into a lot of that
I
here.
gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's fantastic. I think that's great, and I wasn't talking to him about it, anything like that, and I don't think that we need to point this out to him just for our own knowledge. That I'd be willing to help out if I can, just because I'm excited for that for him again, because
So you'd
as a
volunteer?
musician. I'll do whatever I can do.
I'll let him know because I said I'd volunteer.
Good.
Okay.
Because it's exciting to be part of musicians being where they go and do what they do. Seeing people's enjoyment, which is at such a low level, is still exciting. That low, there's nothing wrong with that low level. I'm not trying to just say that it being an inferior position. When you listen to music on the radio, you're enjoying music at a very low level.
Right.
You're just taking it in, and that's it. And that's what I'm really trying to say. And to see people enjoy that out of your dad, that's phenomenal.
Well, that's the thing is like you get out there, you know everybody appreciates music. Anybody going to a musical gig appreciates music. When they get something more out of it, where they get excited, that's where I get happy about it too. Because I'm like, yes, and it's like you're sharing the experience, going,
Sure.
I love this shit too. It's awesome that you feel it or that you love it or whatever. We have something in common, even though I never want to talk to you ever. It's just kind of the thing.
Right.
Live music kind of brings that out of people. Now, the thing is, like we have other live music friends, like my friend Linda.
Right.
Is in an awesome band. She's been in bands for a year, her and her husband Ted. I mean...
And they've gone through several different names.
Yes.
And
groups of people.
Right. And
Linda used to be just a backup singer. Can you believe that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was backup.
So
she is not a backup singer.
So to talk about your friend Linda, their current band, you don't think it'd be a problem mentioning their name, right? I think they'd be okay with that.
I think they'd be okay with that.
So their current band's name is Arena.
I apologize, Linda and Ted, if you didn't want that known.
And they've opened for some other big friends of ours that we rarely even get to see or contact.
Not anymore. We used to go see them all the time. Hairball.
Yeah, and they're still on Facebook. They know us because sometimes I write them on Facebook and they say, "Hey, haven't seen you guys in a long time."
I know. And every time I go up there and they see me on the stage, like they're pointing at me, going, "Hey!" I'm like, "Yeah,
that's
like
awesome.
You guys too."
They're such a big group now. And I'm so happy for those guys. They do such fantastic work.
That's what I mean, is like when the times that I get up to the stage, because sometimes you can't even get up there. There's many people going to see them now that you literally have to fight your way. And I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm not young anymore. I don't need to be elbowing people in the fucking heads.
Right.
Yeah.
Or fighting your way through just to get there. Exactly. It's like, come on.
But then to have, because it was funny, because you remember back in the day, do you remember this? Back at, when they used to have gigs at Pops.
Right.
So you go up north, not Pavlitsky's,
I think it was, yeah.
It was Pops.
Right.
All right. So you go up there, Hairball would play, whatever, and Arena would play. And then I was like, you guys have to meet my friend Linda. She's in this band Arena, whatever. They're like, yeah, okay, because I'm sure they hear that all the time.
Sure.
And I would tell them, Linda, I'm like, you need to get introduced to the Hairball guys. She's like, oh yeah, like we met them a couple times and they were like, you guys are pretty good, She's like, I don't know, we didn't really have like the best connection. Well, something must have happened recently because all of a sudden fucking Linda's band is opening for Hairball.
Right.
Repeatedly.
Yes.
And I think it's finally because the band now, Arena, because before they were something else.
Yeah, and they were this band name once, I remember, called Jello Shots, where they dressed different, did a different, slightly different genre styles of music. And then the other one the other name that I can't remember that for the life of me.
I can't remember the name either.
But they were good, which is the music they play now, which is a lot of 80s cover stuff as well. Right. And the members that they had then were fantastic. They just
I wouldn't say fantastic.
Well, most of them were pretty good.
They're pretty good.
The drummer guy was awesome. I loved that guy. He was I think he was like a Mexican guy or something like that. He was so awesome to talk to. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, he was cool.
And I remember the first time we saw him, the guitarist they had, he was a stuck-up little prick, thought he was the shit. And it wasn't that he wasn't good in his skills. He was
okay. I mean, he was better than like some of the people that suck.
Right. I mean, he could play the guitar.
He can play the guitar.
But
he thought
he was better than...
He thought he was like the shit. He thought he was way over what his capabilities actually were.
Right. He was Slash in his mind.
In his mind, he was Slash.
But definitely not. Because he could play the music, no problem. He sounded good. But that was as far as that went. And
he didn't do any real original, licks or anything like. I mean,
right.
There wasn't anything that was like as fantastic as he thought he was in his own mind.
Sure.
Which was the biggest problem that I had with him.
Yeah.
So, and I feel bad because I know that they're friends, but that's kind of what I had. I had an issue with his ego
Yep.
compared to what his abilities were.
Right, and that blows stuff up, and we'll talk about that with
Yes.
your dad's band too,
Yes.
because that's a very important part. But Arena, those guys are fan. I really like going to listen to Arena with your friend Linda and Ted. And Ted does fantastic work in the songs he sings. I can't remember the song. I think it's
He does a Pink
Vegas.
Floyd song. Oh,
he does one I think it's called Vegas, and I can't remember who sings it originally, but he does the cover of it, and I actually like his version better. Than the original. But that Pink Floyd song,
I don't even like Pink Floyd, but
Yeah.
I like how he sings it.
right, and maybe that's it. I don't remember who sings that one. It's an unusual artist that sings it. It's not some typical thing. But
He's got a great voice. He does some. They do a few newer things.
right.
But Linda's voice is.
She's fantastic.
It's more than fantastic. She's fucking phenomenal.
What I love about Linda from Arena, I'm keep
Plugging
boosting
it.
Arena. What I enjoy about her abilities is to be able to sing the. I don't say heavy metals, but the big bands of the 80s that are all male, and she can sing them, and they sound fantastic with that change of voice.
Yeah, she does the hair bands of the 80s.
Yes,
and
the hair bands.
And doesn't make every single song sound like Heart.
Right.
Because that was the big women's hair band of the 80s was Heart.
Right.
Linda sings so far beyond that
Joan
reach.
Jett, Heart, things like that.
Exactly. She doesn't even sound like any of the women. Her voice in itself is so fucking rocking out that you don't even know that there's anything different. You're just like, this chick fucking rocks.
Yes.
She's amazing vocals. I have yet to find anybody in the blues thing, where my dad is or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to find her equal in blues as she is to, 80s music.
Sure.
Vocally, her range is astronomical.
Yeah,
I've never met
she
an
is
equal.
phenomenal. I really like listening to her sing. I mean, they don't always play songs that I like to hear,
Right.
but when they do, man, I just love it. They just do a fantastic job. I'm not going to say anything about their current band members because I don't know if they're all still the same, so I don't want to say anything about people that may still be there that are not positive, but don't really know them.
Right.
So, they could all be historical stuff at this point.
Well, except
I
for
don't
Ted.
know.
Ted's a constant. Ted's
Right.
always
Well,
there.
Ted and Linda.
Right. And then their drummer's awesome now. Their new
Okay.
drummer. They have a new drummer. He's fantastic.
Okay, that's great.
He's not so much new anymore. It's been like 5 years, but
5 years.
yeah.
It's awesome. But yeah, so we have some friends there as well, and in the family. And we mentioned Hairball, the original Hairballs guys, which some of them are now different, all the way back to their original bass player.
Yeah.
And I forget his name.
Russ.
Russ, yes. That, went his own way. And then the next bass player they got, and I think Dan. Sports, that's what it was. and he was fantastic. I don't know why he left. And
It must, what the only thing I could think of is that it must have been taking away too much time from his family or whatever.
could have been.
Because I thought he was really good too. And I don't know the story,
Right.
but it
we
seemed like
obviously
they really
wouldn't,
liked
but
him too.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And he came from another musical band.
Right.
So I don't know that it would have been any expectations to be different being with this band.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they just got so big to the point where he couldn't hang with that. It was, like you're saying, taking that time away that he couldn't spare beyond what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy was phenomenal. I really liked the stuff that he was doing. And again, loved Russ.
Loved Russ.
He was great.
He was awesome.
But Dan was fantastic. And now I don't even...
Dan was a little more professional.
A little more professional, a little more clean cut. He didn't do a lot of off the cuff kind of
antics,
stuff.
Right.
But what he was doing was perfectly fine. It didn't take anything away from the show.
Nope.
And I don't know the bass player now, but they're still phenomenal.
Yeah. Obviously.
Well,
They're
absolutely.
playing giant gigs and they're getting like
Right.
national fucking coverage now.
Right.
But do you remember the night that I made friends with Dan?
I don't remember the exact night.
We were down in Hopkins. I don't know what the bar is down there. in Hopkins.
That was the one that was in Hopkins. Oh, just off that main street in Hopkins. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's called Main Bar. What, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't remember.
Probably
the name
isn't
of it.
something fantastical, but we were there, and it was like he'd been playing with him a couple times. We seen him like 4 or 5 times, and I was like, Dan, I just have to say, I said, I know I'm a novice. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know music, whatever, but I know it enough to see that you guys are becoming such a cohesive band right now. I can't believe I just see like huge opportunities in your future because you guys are just rock solid. You know what I mean? You're jamming, you're jiving. You guys are like melding together. You're just gelling. And he was like, you know what? That's amazing that you would say that, and I appreciate that. And then after that night, it was always like, hey, Jen, how's it going? I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. Just saying what I saw.
Sure. I do have to say, admittedly, I miss being able to see those guys.
I do too.
Once a month, a couple times a month.
Especially Mike. I miss Happy so much. I just want to kiss his face.
Oh, what the hell was his name? The drummer, Blake, but his other
Snake Python.
Python.
Something.
I think
Python.
it's Python.
No, it's something Python, isn't it?
I think it's just Python.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I
You're
think it's
wrong,
just Python.
but it's Python something.
Okay.
There's something Python.
But Blake was the guy. The kid was so shy.
He's so shy. But,
But the guy rocked on those drums, man.
Oh my God, I know.
It was so cool to watch. I loved his solos. I've never heard a drum solo where I was like, you could just listen to drums all day.
Mm-hmm.
That guy was just amazing at what he could do with those things. I remember when he was so young, he would tell you, don't take any pictures of me smoking.
Yeah, don't take any pictures of me smoke, because I used to take pictures, like thousands of them, and they're like, what's this crazy bitch taking pictures of? And I told him, I said, I'll give you guys like CDs of the pictures, which I did, and they're not all that great because it was my first time taking pictures of a live band with the changing lights and whatever, and I'm changing my aperture, and it wasn't all that fantastic, but that's how they knew me, is because I'd always take these awesome pictures and send them. Well, what I thought was awesome at the time. And I'd send them, and they would use what they could. Colt Python, by the way.
Colt Python, there
Sorry,
we go.
that totally interrupted my own speech. So that's how they knew me, is because I would take pictures, and he would say, don't take pictures of me because I'm not supposed to be smoking. I said I'd quit.
Oh, he's such a great kid, though.
And then we just outsed him right now.
Right.
He's probably quit now, just saying.
Probably.
This was back in the day.
And if not, he's rich enough, it don't matter. But yeah, all the guys are great. And I even really, I would still enjoy talking to, I think his name was Chainsaw, the founder of the group.
Oh, yeah.
That from what I understand, he still owns the group. He does all the marketing for them now and puts them together and sets up their gigs.
Well, and honestly, yep, Chainsaw, sometimes he was off and whatever, but you know what? The dude was a fucking entertainer, because when he came out in the fat suit with the little twirly, what are those called, the tassels?
The breast tassels.
Because he come out as
the Joan Jett, Fat Joan Jett.
Not Joan Jett. It was
Heart?
from Heart.
Okay,
right.
the fatter
Anne.
one.
He'd come out as Anne.
Okay.
And he'd be in a fat suit, and he would take down the top of it, and he'd have these tassels on there. And the song was, instead of ooh, barracuda, it was ooh, bag of Fuda. And he spoofed shit out so awesomely.
Yes.
He was a genius with that shit. So yeah, he still owns the band from what we understand.
Right.
But yeah, I think he's a phenomenal person.
Yes,
I'd love to talk to him too.
He's a great guy. But as you pointed out, Happy, phenomenal. And
Rockstar Bob?
Rockstar Bob rocks too, but on Happy, yep, it's Rockstar Bob. Speaking of Happy though, I have to give him kudos, because when you were learning the guitar and I was learning the piano and the college stuff, and he would come talk to us all the time. He was so willing to speak to Justin.
Yes. And show him stuff.
And
He wanted us to
himself.
bring him to the
Yes.
gigs so he could show him.
So the one time we were able to, we took him to Pov's, and they said he had the kids had to be out by 9 because of the bar thing. But he came over and played with them a little bit and had some things to tell Justin.
You're right, it was a prov, not the brig. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that
Povs.
Pov. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And first he thought it was Josh, and then it was Justin. So we gave him both guitars and had stuff to say. So it was just really cool that he was willing to do something like that. You know, it just shows what kind of a guy he is. Just a real warm-hearted guy.
Such an upstanding person. You know,
Absolutely.
you get to know these guys, and they have so much heart and so
Yes.
much passion, and there's so much personality there that it's not just their persona up on stage.
Right.
It's like their persona up on stage is pretty cool, but when you get to know the people themselves, they're fantastic.
Yes, they are.
But the one thing I have to say about them, which is kind of leading into what we were talking about earlier, and the one thing I have to say about the guys that my dad consistently plays with and the people that Linda plays with, the egos.
Yes.
The
Now,
egos are very low.
when we're talking about Hairball, though, there is one guy with an ego, but works for him.
Rockstar Bob.
Yes.
Right. But when you talk to him, like, personally,
Yes.
you can tell there's more under the surface.
Absolutely. Which probably makes his
Hmm.
egocentric aspect more complex.
It does make it more complex, but if you see it enough, like I did, I'm like, you know what? This is not an idiot.
Right.
This person
right.
is not stupid.
If you
Right.
brush by him, you think, what an egotistical prick.
Right. You're like, what a prick.
But if you're like, hey, I really like what you do, when you're being realistic to him,
Mm-hmm.
then that ego kind of goes to the side, and he's who he is.
Well, I even had the opportunity to see him be awkward because he
really.
was like totally into Danette,
Okay.
who we had brought with us. He was totally into her, and he was like actually awkward, and she was like fucking saying shit that I would have punched her in the face if I was a rock star, you know? I'd been like, who the fuck you think you are, bitch? And he was all awkwardly weird with her, and I was like, yeah, this guy's got some soul to him.
Right. But like I'm saying, if you just brush by him and said, "Oh, Rockstar vibes," like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know, the ego's just there.
Well, that's his persona.
Right, and that's that. I guess you could call that his stage character.
Mm-hmm. It is
versus,
his stage character.
You know, but like you were pointing out.
Well, saying Colt Python is completely different than Blake.
Oh, absolutely. But well, at the same time, if you stopped him, he'd be just shy. Hey, thanks. You know, and just
Because
move
that's
on.
Blake.
Right.
But on stage, Colt Python,
But he didn't have to talk or anything.
he didn't have to talk.
so-
But that's what I mean. That's the persona is different than.
Sure. I get your point.
You get my point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But you know, and you know, just staying with
Like Happy's wild and crazy and
on
and then
stage, but
on stage, and then you remember the one day we were down in Hopkins and we're like, "Hey, we don't see you out here on the breaks too often." He's like, "Yeah, I threw my back out. I'm laying down on a cot."
But yeah,
It's all about the performance, so
Right.
he's got to be ready for the next set. So
Exactly.
he's resting.
So, but all those guys, and I think we've met the newer guys just kind of in passing, talking to the other
Briefly.
guys, not really getting to know them.
Well, Linda knows the new second lead because you remember
Okay.
Rockstar Bob used after Chainsaw left. Rockstar was kind of the only lead, right?
Right.
And then they added Chris Cox.
Yes.
Well, Linda knew Chris Cox from before, but they didn't start playing together until like after Arena got pretty big.
Right. And then I think they now also have another lead singer as well, and I don't remember.
3 of them?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I don't remember what his name is, but
Okay.
in my opinion, in knowing these guys the way that we do,
Mm-hmm.
and their type of characters, which we're getting to the ego thing of things, I can't see their group tolerating an egotistical prick
I
in
can't
their
see it,
band
no.
and saying, yeah, you're good, even though your ego sucks because you think you're better than you are, we need to keep you. I don't think they tolerate that kind of shit.
No.
I think they need that meld, that
The personality that fits with them, which is
Right.
not a cocky fucker.
exactly. And
You can be cocky as a persona, but as a person, no.
right.
No dice.
And I think that so these guys must have that kind of quality in them. I can't imagine them hanging around people that were pricks.
Right.
So
And I understand there's bands out there that, you know, they go and they become a band and they're like, okay, and the lead singer gets really, really famous and they're an asshole.
right,
Like, from what I hear, Prince is an asshole, which sucks because he's local. But that's what people say, is his ego is so huge and whatever, and he's fantastic. So now his ego is so huge to match, but you can't work with somebody like that. You can't.
it's hard to do.
Yeah, you basically just have to stuff everything down, and I think that sucks your creativity away.
Sure, absolutely. It makes it difficult for communication. And, you know, if we're going to start getting into that ego stuff, we're going to go back to your dad's bands.
Oh, God, yeah.
And off the
Bobby.
start when he first got his that first band together, which he didn't claim as his own.
Nope.
It was just, hey, we're just playing together. And the guy that you pointed out, his name was Bobby. He thought it was his band, and he was the shit, and everybody else was a minion, and none of them felt that way. They were, hey, we're in this together. We're gonna do well, and he was the outsider because he felt that he was the shit.
Yeah. And he was kind of outsider. And people would look at him like, okay, I guess this is the leader because the ego's there, right? So they would assume, well, obviously this person has an ego for a reason, but what you saw is he had an ego for zero reason.
Right.
And then later on, what I found out from my dad is that his brother's like a big musician.
Sure.
So he had an ego because his brother's a big musician, and he thought, well, because my brother's a musician, so am I.
I must be that good.
But you remember listening to the guy.
He was okay.
I didn't even know if he was okay. He sounded like he was in a fucking cardboard box. I could barely hear him.
His guitar was always the loudest.
His guitar was always the loudest. It was annoying.
It would drown out everything else.
And it wasn't all that
great. It was okay.
It wasn't that great.
He could play it, but it wasn't anything spectacular.
No, it was just playing it.
Right.
Like straight.
And his voice could have been all right, but he sung horrible.
His voice sounded like he was like a
He would sing back from the mic like, fix the mic. I don't need to work for this, you know.
It was just his voice had no projection whatsoever, and he really wasn't that good at it. He had no passion behind it.
No, none at all. It was
all ego.
Ego to be in the spotlight.
Pretty much. Yep. And so then when they got rid of them, all of a sudden they started going places. You saw that?
Right, absolutely.
They started going. They started playing bigger and bigger. All of a sudden they weren't stuck to just VFWs.
Right.
You know.
Started getting into bigger things.
Dad guest starred Linda one time at his funeral because they came down.
Yeah, he played for your friend Arena because they were missing a guitarist.
Yeah, he stepped in or whatever. But then Linda came and played with him. Electric Blue, I think, was the name of the band that was going on at the same time with Jello Shot. So they came down there and she like sang, and my dad was like blown away. He's like, that chick can blow. I'm like, no shit. And he goes, and she's super hot. But don't tell her I said that. Whoops, I just said it on air.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
She is hot.
Yes, she is. But yeah, your dad started getting band members from huge former groups. Some of the drummers he had were from seriously huge people. I can't remember if he had any bass or other guitarists or something that used to play with like B.B. King or something like that.
Yep.
But he started getting these people interested. And it wasn't because he was pursuing them. They became interested.
They became interested, and they started to realize that he had some talent. And my dad has zero ego. It's not that he's all like, ooh. It just he knows, you know, what he likes and whatever, but he's not like super into himself.
Right.
And all the other good musicians seem to kind of like magnetize towards that.
Yeah.
They flock to that when somebody's really good but doesn't have an ego about it, because they're like, you're a real musician.
Right.
Because if you have a giant ego, what it feels like to me, from not only what we've seen as outsiders, but also what I've seen from the back end, knowing all these different bands and kind of being in the back end, is they don't want that ego. A little bit of ego as a persona is good, as a persona, but as an actual human trying to work with that person, you don't want any ego.
Right.
Because a real musician doesn't have that. They're always trying to improve. They're always trying to perfect. They're always trying to see, what can I do now that makes me better? You know, and we're going to grow together. It's not just one person. The band is never just one person in any good musician's mind. It's about how well you can meld together.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And, you know, we've heard background stories of the hair bands of the 80s, and almost every one of those band members had an ego.
After maybe they're super famous.
Right. And there's probably one or two out of 5 of them that have the worst egos. So
Right.
the other 3 are like, these guys are just out there, man. But they also know for their job that needs to be there. But they will admit they're real hard to work with. It just is. It's not easy.
I'm going to see one of the classics this summer, Motley Crue, that can't work together So much that they decided to actually do a written agreement that they will never tour again after this year.
And that's that's what happens.
No, I can't blame them.
Absolutely not. There was. I don't think you heard. You weren't up for the morning show, the local KQ morning show, but Van Halen brought back. What's that guy? The lead singer.
David Lee or
yes,
the other? Okay,
David Lee Roth.
I love David Lee. I would have sex with David Lee. I don't know what he looks like right now, but I would have sex with him blindfolded, just remembering what he looked like.
They were doing some comeback tour stuff.
Okay.
With the original David Lee Roth Van Halen band.
What about Sammy Hagar though?
He was after David Lee Roth.
Right, I know.
So they were just doing David Lee
Okay.
Roth, and they played some audio from their first one. That guy sounds horrible. Can't sing worth a shit. That was They were singing the song Panama. It was horrendous. The music was great. His voice, terrible.
Like when they brought him back, it was terrible?
Yeah, they played some audio from a gig they did
Oh no.
like a couple weeks ago. Terrible.
Oh no.
It's like, yeah, that's where you went with the way that you were. It just that's
like the
that's
drugs
what happened.
and whatever.
I guess I don't know what the deal was.
Well,
And
he was always
maybe
about being wild and crazy and
wild,
whatever,
crazy, and from and I'm just going by the rumor mill here, but from what I understand, he didn't want to practice, didn't want to do anything like that. Would just go out and be himself, sort of thing. So I don't know what it's like now, but they played one of their old time songs, Panama, and he couldn't sing it.
Well, that's kind of a problem, and that's kind of the ego thing, and maybe why they kicked him out of the band. I don't know.
From what I understand, they had a hard time dealing with him, and then that's when they got Sammy Hagar.
Like he probably thought he was Axl Rose, and he's not.
Right,
You know?
and they came back. I think they come back to
They did.
David Lee
No, well they did.
for a while.
They had
and
a
got
weird
rid of him.
fucking
Yeah.
setup. Those that whole band or whatever. But
Right,
but that's maybe why they kicked him out in the first place. Is that his ego was bigger than his ability.
right, because he was front and center in the spotlight. That's who the kind of guy he was. He was
And he was
eccentric
hot,
like
so
that,
people
right?
wanted to look at him.
right.
But
That's
if he was dragging down the band because he was partying too hard or getting drunk or whatever and didn't give a fuck, obviously if he didn't want to practice, that doesn't show a lot of care.
right, and can't stress enough. This is rumorville stuff. Don't know the facts.
Right, and it could be.
But
yeah.
I can understand where that is accurate because we've witnessed that in a personal life in your family and with your dad, with this egotistical person who was thinking they were something they weren't, and that was really holding the band back. And when you're comparing that to this big band of the 80s where they're on top, but then they're starting to bring them down, it can't be anything different than somebody doing that off the start
Oops.
and not allowing the band to go up.
Right.
So I can see it in being something along those lines. So it's not impossible. But yeah, moving on that, back at your dad's stuff with that one guitar player, and from my perspective, I guess we're in agreement. The guy could play the guitar, but it was just playing. It was. I would chalk it up as he read the music, he figured it out, he played it. He might have changed a couple things about it because he thought it was improved,
Right.
and that was it. There was.
Oh, and he just thought the look on his face when he would do a solo, he was like, he thought he was Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I was like, you're nowhere near.
And I got to tell you,
He had no originality.
no originality to his solos. It was. I have a hard time saying that it was without emotion because I don't see the emotion but when your dad does it, maybe there's just emotion behind it.
Well, 'cause
but
it was
there's
real.
stuff coming behind his solos that are unique and original. And he may have done that similar solo some other time, but it still got some power to it. It wasn't like just notes being played.
Well, because even though the guy would have the face and think that he was doing an awesome job, what was behind it is the ego going, yeah, I'm doing so awesome, I'm being so awesome. Where as opposed to like my dad or anybody that plays with my dad, that my dad is like, yeah, this guy's got to play with me, is their face is doing the same thing that this guy was pretending to do. But their face is like that. They're actually closed eyes, making the fucking struggle, yeah, kind of face, but they're doing it because there's so much passion into it, and they're just like moving into the music. They're just going with it, and they're like guitar or drums or whatever the person is doing, even the saxophone or the trumpet. It's like they're so into it and they're doing it, but it's because that they're passionate about it. And the originality comes out of them just feeling the music and exuding it.
Right.
And you can feel that in the crowd. If you pay attention, if you pay enough attention and you focus on the energy, you can look at anybody up at the band that's playing and you can see if that person is feeling back to you. Are they giving you any kind of energy? If not, if they're just like sucking their own dick, you can kind of feel that. You can.
I get what you're saying, that when the crowd has got a response.
Yes.
And when Bobby was doing his stuff, and I can't say looking back now I was all that observant to that. I didn't have response. It just like, yeah, the notes sound good. But that's all there really was. It wasn't like, wow, that was awesome. It was moving. It wasn't nothing like that. It was just like, the notes were there. You know, there's one positive thing I can say about Bobby. He had a cool looking guitar. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you have to understand what that compliment means. When you go to a Guitar Center, you can see a lot of cool looking guitars.
Well, wasn't it just it was just a pearlescent Les Paul, right?
I have some visions in my head, but it could be some cross-ups
right.
of seeing other guitars that I really don't remember. I just remember that his guitar looked cool. But
Might be some Lucille knockoff.
Could be. But like I'm saying, you can go to Guitar Center and see a lot of good-looking guitars. Mm-hmm. Cool-looking guitars. Awesome ones. Amazing ones. In the used rack and the new rack. It still takes somebody that knows what the hell they're fucking doing to play the damn thing well.
Exactly.
So
which is why I don't take mine out of the case. Since I have a guitar that's worth $2,300, is that what it was? 26.
Something like that.
$2,300 or $2,600.
It's a beautiful machine, though.
Beautiful Les Paul, tiger stripe, like a
tiger stripe. That's a fantastic
it's like a teal.
blue.
It's such a bluish.
I wouldn't call it a teal. There's something to that blue that
it's very blue, but it has
very blue,
little bit of green in
just
it.
a little bit. So I wouldn't even go to the teal side.
Oh,
it's just
so hot.
There's this depth of that blue that's amazing. That's a beautiful guitar.
It's a fucking gorgeous guitar, but I don't take it out of the case because I can't play guitar very well.
I disagree. I think you do well.
I don't do well. I know like 3 things.
I think you do well.
I think I sing better than I play guitar, and I don't actually sing that well.
You can know one thing and know it well, and that means you know it well. You know it well.
But I can do more
you can
with
do
my
it
voice.
Well, that's fine. But you can do it well.
I can do those 3 things. I can play rhythm. I can play rhythm with no originality.
I can strum an open 6-string, no problem.
Because when Mike asked me, my guitar teacher, he's like, okay, so just like jam with this. Like just jam with it. I was like, what? It's like just play notes that go with this song. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And so I tried, I did like 3 notes. He's like, see, that works. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Don't fucking tell me that just because we're friends, because we were also jiu-jitsu partners back then. Like, don't you fucking tell me that just because we're buddies. And he's like, see, that's good. I'm like, it's not good. It might be more creative than I've ever been, but it doesn't mean it's good.
No, that is good.
No, it's like, I know, in his opinion as a teacher, he was like, you're progressing. But in my opinion as a student, I'm going, I will never be where you are. Why are you even talking to me?
A step forward is good. It's positive. That's the point. It's a step forward.
I was way better in jiu-jitsu as a student than I was as a guitar student. Because I remember the dude that he called me up later on, and he was like, hey. I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, you were actually frustrating me tonight. I said, what do you mean? He goes, like, he's like, your guard. He's like, in jiu-jitsu, so we were wrestling earlier. Sure. He's like, you were actually starting to piss me off because I was thinking, I don't think I can get out of this. It's like, you're starting to learn shit. And he goes, personally, to be fighting you, I was like, what the fuck? He's like, but as a teacher, I was like, this is great.
Well, now think about that. Would you analyze you were putting more into the jiu-jitsu?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so you see, those are bigger steps forward.
Right.
then so that doesn't mean you weren't doing well. You were just not putting the time energy into that. The
And maybe
guitar.
that's what it is with the guitars. I don't think I could ever be even close to.
Did you think your dad thought he would be where he is today when he was playing it?
But my dad started playing when he was like a teenager.
And I understand that, but think about it.
I got
Even
you.
at
No,
the
he probably
teenager
never thought
part
that.
to the 20s to the 30s, do you think his thought process ever was, I'm going to be good enough to be playing in a band on a stage and do it in Minnesota and in Florida with these huge blues
Huge names,
historical people?
which
Do you
we
think
haven't
that-
named because I don't want to name them. But
Right,
there's
but
like
do you think he
huge-
ever had that thought process?
He did not have that thought process.
I
but
imagine him today still has a thought process of, I can't believe where I'm at because I don't think I'm quite there.
Right. But I kind of think that maybe I wouldn't be into the guitar if my dad wasn't a guitarist.
Maybe.
So maybe I'm riding his coattails, which makes me think maybe I shouldn't have.
I don't agree with that.
I
think
want to play,
that's why I think you start playing the guitar because.
but
you
I want to
play.
sing more than I want to play.
And that's fine. But there are people who do sing and play instruments, but they don't really want to play the instruments so much. They'd rather do the singing.
Mm-hmm.
But they can play the instruments and they can play them well.
But I don't want to suck at the instrument and just go do 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 because that's all I can do. I'd rather not have the instrument and just sing. You understand what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
I don't want to be bad at one thing and do the other just because I like both. But I think I can do more with singing as
Sure.
a natural talent because I kind of think that maybe my passion for guitar is because of Dad.
It could be. And I'm not saying that's
I
inaccurate.
want to be really good at it, but I don't have the drive to practice, and I wonder if that's just because I want to be good at it, maybe for my dad.
Well, that's not impossible. But if it's
But
more
it makes
real,
it pretty pathetic.
well, no, I don't think so. Think about that for a second.
Okay.
Is it really pathetic? And think about that question because you're looking at your dad doing something well that you actually like.
hmm
You want to also do that well.
I would love to be on stage. Right.
Not necessarily to that point, but you want to do it well in your mind. Doesn't that make you view your father as being a role model to you? This
Oh,
is
for
why
sure.
I want. Okay, now how is that pathetic?
Because maybe that's the only reason I want to do it, because he's my role model.
I disagree. If you took your dad out of the equation completely, would you still want to play it? Now think about that, because do you think?
Yeah, if I knew how to do it, if I knew more about the guitar, like if I could play more of it, I would love to play more of it.
Well, sure,
I
but you have
love
to
it.
learn that.
I know, that's the thing, is I have to learn it, and I don't have the time to learn it, and it's like if you don't have the time to do something, you find time if it's a passion, right? I find
You'll
time to
make it,
ride,
because that's a higher priority.
but
Think about this. How
Right
often do
now-
you spend doing Facebook farming? You could cut that down and play the guitar. You could.
right.
It's just not a high enough priority to you. But if
That's
you
like my
wanted to make it,
pacifier to get to my horse, because I only see my horse once or
so,
twice.
well,
a week.
see, you could put that energy elsewhere if you wanted to. It's a thought process on doing it or not. I guess my point is to the matter is I don't view you having a desire to want to play the guitar because your dad plays it. I think that you have an interest in it because your father does do it well, but you have a personal interest to want to get to that level because it's exciting for
Not
you.
even to that level. I would.
Just be able to play.
I'd just be really happy if I could play. Right.
Right. And that'll take time.
It'll take time.
And you realize that, and it's going to take the amount of time that will take some additional dedication you don't necessarily want to apply it.
And right now I have no balance in my life anyway, because if I did, I'd be spending more than 1 to 2 days a week with my horse,
Sure.
which is my true passion.
Right. But you could, and we're not going to analyze all your time in the world.
No,
It's not
I gotcha.
impossible,
I gotcha.
for you to spend 2 days with your horse and play 2 days on your guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that. You're just choosing to do other stuff. That's
Mhm.
all. But as our topic was dealing with these musical bands that we have as friends
Right.
that are huge bands. I would even look at Arena as being a huge band.
It is a huge band
a
now.
local
Yeah.
huge band.
Mm-hmm.
Because of their personal lives, it's kind of pulled back on getting out into the world, but they're still a big band.
Yes.
They're a big deal. They have an agent who gets them tickets to huge shows sometimes, which we were able to grace once with
Twice.
Twisted Sister.
Twisted Sister, and then
The Christmas
the other
group
one.
of Twisted Sister.
The other one she gave us she gave us tickets twice.
I didn't go to any other show.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Not that I know of, but okay. But all I remember is the Twisted Sister Christmas show at the Myth that she got us tickets for through her agent, which was fantastic. But
and thank you, Linda, for getting us tickets to
yes.
the other band that I can't remember.
Right. And
Otherwise, Eric would remember that we
Right.
went there twice.
it was so great. We can't remember what it was, apparently. Shit.
Started with a D.
The Doofus Band.
Depeche Mode. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, right.
No.
But yeah, we've been very lucky in that aspect of knowing these fantastic band members and getting that upfront and backside of things, and then of course dealing with your dad, so on a personal level. But that ego thing, I think that really fucks things up.
It does fuck things up. Yeah. If you are a musician out there and you have this giant ego and think that you're awesome, and why am I not more awesome than I am? That's why. Because your ego is way too fucking big. And real musicians are not like that.
Here's the funny thing. Anybody in that position will not know they're in that position because they think they're too big.
Well, because it's like a huge narcissistic thing.
I'm so big.
Okay,
Nobody
so
knows
if you're
it.
awesome and you're not getting fucking public, like, huge record deals, maybe that's why. Because you're not as awesome as you think you are. Take that to heart, motherfuckers.
Or you think you're more awesome than you are,
Than you
and
actually
you're still
are.
good. You're
might be
just
good.
putting yourself higher than
You might
actually
be
are.
gooder than all your friends are, but it doesn't mean you're awesome.
That is amazing, though.
It
That's
is
fun
amazing
stuff.
because the really good musicians that we've met do not have that ego.
No, not at all. There's some of the band members your dad has played with. I can't look at and say I don't like those people. There's some people I just like. Yeah, I could take them or leave them. But they're fantastic at what they do. They really are. They play well. They sing well. They do a great job. Just there's something about them I just don't care about, and it's just maybe a style or something. It's not that they're bad. It's just a personal thing for me, and that's important to point out. I don't like country music. That doesn't mean it sucks. I don't like it, so I say it sucks.
Talking about JD.
No,
Okay.
I'm just saying there are some people that are in your dad's bands for certain reasons that I don't care for, and it's not necessarily because they're bad at playing or they're bad at the band or they're bad at music. It's just they bother me, so I could take them or leave them there. But
you're not talking about JD,
who is JD, by the way?
the guy that usually sings the country songs that you don't like, which is an
the bass player.
amazing bass player.
The bass player. He's fantastic playing bass.
And have you met him personally? He's
A couple of times.
fucking awesome.
I don't care to talk to the guy. I don't know. There's something about him I don't really want to know him.
It's probably the beard.
It
You don't
could
like the
be.
beard. Weirdo.
But I don't like his country music because I don't like country music. But beyond that, the guy does a great job. He's a fantastic performer. His bass playing's wonderful. When he sings, his voice is fine. Don't mind it at all. I don't want to know the guy on a personal level. I just don't.
I know him on a personal level, and I fucking love him.
And that's great. No problem. If the guy was here today, I would still talk to him. It's no big deal. I just wouldn't take. I don't want to take it any further than that. And the other lead singer and guitarist, the kid,
Tony?
yeah,
Tony.
Same thing.
I'm touching my nipples and squeezing for anybody in the camera that can't see. I'm like, hello,
The camera
Tony.
died already.
Tony. No, the camera's dead.
Yes,
So I'm telling it over the microphone.
that's right.
Tony, do
Same situation though. I really enjoy
You
his
don't want
playing.
to talk to him personally?
No,
You've
don't
talked to
wanna
him. You've never talked to him personally.
I think I've said, hey, you did a great job tonight because he does.
Oh, see, that's
does
the
great.
issue.
I just
That's
don't
the issue.
wanna-
You've never had the opportunity to talk to these guys, and it's hard to talk to you out in the open anyway because you're very closed off. Right? Just
I would
know
go with
that.
that.
You know, right?
Okay.
So like somebody approaching you is kind of like, oh, you're Eric. You're a big guy. You're a big guy.
Let's just make
It's
that
not
clear.
like you're smiling all the time.
I'm a big deal.
Oh boy. So people come up to this intimidating, stocky looking motherfucker, usually with a hat on his head like a thug.
Oh yeah, I look like a thug.
No, I'm not saying you look like a thug. You usually have a stocking cap on and they see this on this massive body like, I think this guy's going to kill me if I shake his hand wrong. So, yeah, I can understand why maybe you've never talked. I've talked to JD and Tony several times just on a personal level.
And
I love
honestly,
them both.
I know that you have.
And they're not egotistical.
I trust your opinion in that.
Love them.
And I'm sure they're great guys. I take nothing from that. I just don't have an interest in knowing them.
Because I want to take Tony home?
No.
Okay.
I don't care. There's just nothing about them that interests me enough to want to go up and just, hey, talk. Even their music. Their music's great. I like listening to their music. That's great. Beyond that, I don't want to know them. Unlike your dad, I don't mind talking to your dad.
But you liked Mike.
Mike being...
Hairball.
Yes, I like Mike.
Like,
I wouldn't
to
mind
the point
talking
that
to Mike.
Well, you do talk to him.
Yes, and I don't know why, because I'm not a fan of males in any way, shape, or form.
I know.
But Mike, I would like to know things in Mike's background. There's something about him that intrigues me to want to know, and I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But those other guys, those other gentlemen, it's not there. I don't want to know. I have no drive.
That's
and again,
interesting.
it's
because
not.
you think their talent is awesome,
Oh, absolutely.
but you're not interested in knowing them.
No, not at all. But again, I have to stress, it's not that I would avoid them. If I was sitting at a table with them and we're conversing, I will have a conversation with them.
Right.
I'm not going to just shut down and go, don't talk to me. That's not what I'm saying. Because I'm sure they're fantastic people.
They
There's
are.
nothing harsh about them. Other than, unlike Bobby. I'm like, don't fucking talk to me, dude. But of course he's an egotistical prick. Even if I had the appreciation for his talent sorry, I'm giving him things he doesn't have. So that's a misrepresentation. If I found his talent of sitting on a stage looking like an idiot appreciative, I still wouldn't want to even communicate with that person. Just not at all. And that would be more of a wall
That's
thing.
interesting to me. And we're totally going off topic, so I apologize to people who are listening. But that's very interesting to me that, I don't know if it's the respect for the music or the music type,
Well, I don't know if it's music type, because even when JD, that's the bass guy, right?
Yep.
When he plays the country music and sings it, he does a great job doing
He does
it.
a fantastic.
I'm just not a fan of
When
country
he does
music.
Johnny Cash, it's like even better than Johnny Cash.
And
Which,
the-
I know it's hypocrisy to say that. Let me just get that out of the way,
Sure,
right?
sure.
When I tell something to somebody and I say this song is even better than the original, it does not matter to me that the original was the bass. The original song was fucking awesome, right? It was fucking awesome. Let's just get that out of the way. It is an awesome song, basically. So when somebody else comes along and they sing it better, it doesn't necessarily mean that I like that person better than the original singer, because that singer is the one that fucking created the song, right? It means that singer added something extra that I like even more.
Sure,
That's
sure.
all that it means. Because
Right
I know how how do you say it? It's God
Missing a
damn it.
word.
Well, it's like a hypocrisy, but I didn't want to say hypocrisy. I wanted to say it's hypocritical.
Okay.
Thank you. Hypocritical. You didn't say it. I did.
It was the bottle.
It's hypocritical to say that something is better than the original because the original wouldn't have been created if the original wouldn't do it.
Sure.
That's
sure.
all I'm saying is that I kind of like that version better because it's a little bit different and I've listened to this one 3 million times.
It's just got stuff
That's
you
all.
like it on. personal
Exactly.
level,
Or something different
Yeah. Right.
that's new.
My follow-up point to before with the styles, there is country music I actually do like because I grew up with it and it just triggers some kind of happy memory things, and which were a rarity for me. And some of it is the twangiest shit in the world that I honestly can't stand, but it appeals. But generally speaking, I'm not a fan of country music. But that being said, when he's doing those songs, he does a great job. It's not that it's something I can't stand to listen to. It's just not my type of music I care for.
Right.
So he does a good job, even
Okay.
even that style of music. So I don't know if it's so much on the sense of it being the style of music, but Jen's getting squirmy in the seat because she's got to pee.
I have to pee so bad, it's ridiculous.
And I don't know, is there anything else that we have to talk about on this? Because we can take a pause here and come back at it, or
I think we should pause it for a second. Or should we? I don't know if we have anything more.
I don't know what else we have to talk about.
I just was thinking that maybe we could back it up a bit before I sound retarded because I have to pee so bad and I don't know what else to say.
We can come back with some closing statements. So we're going to pause here, take a commercial break on our podcast commercials.
Which there will be no commercial.
All right, we will return in a moment. And we're back from our non-commercial commercial break. Jen's feeling better, so that's a good thing. So Chris in another toilet, which is great.
Oh boy.
So yeah, just to summarize, I guess we're kind of coming to the conclusion of our podcast here about music and between our two personal opinions and the effects on our lives and our observations to it, I guess. What do you think?
You can't have a super huge ego to be a good musician.
Absolutely, and I think there's a place for it, and that's probably
You
on
have to
stage.
be a super good musician in order to create a huge ego, but the problem is I think the ego holds it back.
I would agree with that.
Which we've seen in many 80s bands that have broken up.
Absolutely. Or, had the events they had, like Motley Crue with,
Correct.
destroying hotel rooms and being on drugs and booze all the time.
It's like, you're awesome, and you're like, oh, now I'm going to act awesome, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of the ego that destroys you.
Right.
So if you're really intent on becoming a good band or a good musician, you have to have the humility.
Absolutely.
Because people appreciate and magnetize towards the humility because most really good musicians have that.
Sure. And I think there's a place for the ego. And I think that's when you're on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be presumptuous because obviously I've never been on a stage. You have.
Yep.
But I think that's where it belongs and it needs to be there. Because when I can only imagine. I've played in front of old lady and old people groups.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not comparably to be the same.
It's not like you're coming out of that being like, I'm a fucking rock star.
Right. But when you're there, you have to believe you are the top and you are that good to be there.
Right.
And I think the ego is fine there. But when you leave there, you have to understand no matter how good you are, there's something else to learn and there's somewhere to improve.
Right.
Even if you do know it all, there has to be a place to learn and improve.
God damn it, those old ladies were able to see Beethoven. So I'm definitely not the best. No, that was a terrible joke. But that's, yeah. You got to think of like Elvis, right?
Sure.
On stage, he was commanding. He was authoritative. He was like, I am this, which is on stage right now.
You've seen some of those videos, but even sometimes humility was on surface.
Because he would show his vulnerability and his humility. Even though that was the persona, you would see those little peaks and you were like, I love that. That's what everybody fell in love with. And behind the scenes, that ego really wasn't there.
Right. He was a person.
He was a person and he cared about other people. And people loved that about him.
Right.
It wasn't that he was a rock god.
And he was.
He was. But that's not
why
on
stage.
People loved him. People loved him because he was human.
Right, he was
and
a
he
person.
Showed that.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
And maybe he showed a little too much. Maybe he was a little too vulnerable. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. You never know.
Terrible fucking death, with the drugs and whatever, but that was a whole era.
Aneurysm on the toilet?
Yeah, but it was all the other shit,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And obviously the people we know, as far as we know, don't know that kind of stress. And I don't claim to know anything about that kind of stress, that kind of life. But it's got to be difficult no matter how you look at it being in the
Well, you're
the
a poor
spotlight.
kid, and all of a sudden people are throwing money at you.
Right. You're that celebrity status, and you
Asking
can't
you
go
to change.
anywhere
Right.
without getting bombarded by people.
Yep.
That has to really start taking a toll on you. You know, I'm for one that's all excited to see somebody who is a fan that I'm a fan of. I should say that's more appropriate, and would love to meet them. But at the same time, they probably want to be left the fuck alone.
That's kind of the thing.
And
Yep.
even though I want to express to them how much I appreciate the craft that they're involved in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a fan of their work, I would rather leave it at that and get away from them so they can have their space.
Yep.
And even though it's important to me to express that,
You would sacrifice that with just like a hi or a thumbs up, I know who you are, and then leave. Rather than the idiots that are like, can you sign my tit? Right.
can I get your picture?
Exactly.
It's like they want fucking 10 minutes by themselves. Leave them alone.
Leave
you
them
know?
alone. Just be like, I know who you are. I love you.
Right,
Thank
right.
you. Even if they don't even react. Just like, you're awesome. Bye.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
I understand that. I can appreciate that. I wouldn't want to be bothered 24/7
Right.
if I was
Absolutely.
a star. If I hit the fucking Publishers Clearinghouse fucking lottery, I know how many people would be contacting me, and I'd be the asshole because I'd have to tell them, fuck off. So people are like, hey, I appreciate you, thumbs up, and left because I want the money and they want nothing from me. I'd be like, awesome.
Right.
I can only imagine that's how stars feel.
Sure, I would agree, and it can't be easy
Nope.
to have that stardom, that celebrity status like that. And I, for one, look at anybody who's a star, celebrity, movie star, singer, stuff like that. They're just people, and as much as you appreciate what they do,
And you want to know that person because you
Right.
love them so much.
you think you know them because
Right.
you watch them or see
You
them.
watch
You
their
don't know who
shit,
this
you know
person is.
everything about them. You watch all of the behind the scenes. You watch all of the interviews. Yeah, I get it.
Sure,
I get it.
absolutely.
There's so
But-
many stars I want to get to know, but I don't want to be a pest.
Right, and you have to understand and know they appreciate you being a fan. But
not
do it
being
from a
pest.
distance.
Right.
Appreciate what they did that you're enjoying. But leave it there. Again, it's probably another whole topic here on its own. But you have to do it that way. And your dad comes off stage on their breaks, and he's not getting hounded by people. Some people do come up to him, and he goes to the people that he knows, and
He has
that group
very
gets
little
bigger and
time.
bigger.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's trying to make these rounds and say hi to people. He's on a fucking break.
I know,
from
but
just
he
performing
feels,
for 45
he feels
minutes.
guilty that he can't talk to people on his break like he wants to do, because there's so many people that want his
Right.
time.
Right.
But that's the humility and the humbleness that I think people need to understand, that that's what a real musician is.
Sure. And at the same time, in my opinion, because he also needs that break.
He does need
He
that.
needs to find a place to sit
Go
down.
into the
and
bathroom
just-
and pretend like you're taking a shit for 5 minutes, Dad, just to get away.
I kind of miss, when we would go to his gigs, he would come and just sit with us for his break.
Oh, I remember that. Right?
We'd just be
You can't
talking
do
about
that
stuff,
now.
and I'd tell him all the sounds going, your guitar is not loud enough, and that fucker's guitar is way too loud. And when you're doing your solo, we need to hear that shit. Talking about that stuff to him, which makes the sound better for everybody who's enjoying it. And you can't do that because he's working so hard to get to everybody. And I don't say anything because he's managing himself how he does. But in my opinion, you need to come up with your family, sit down, and just be yourself and relax. And if people come up to you, hey, have a minute or two conversation, but then get back to just relaxing, because you just been putting on a fucking show for 45 minutes minimum. You need to relax.
But in my dad's head, because he's so non-egotistical,
Right.
he's like,
And it's
the entire time I'm here is a show.
right, and I understand that, but at the same time, I don't find that to be a characteristic of being egotistical. To say I need a breather, I need to relax. My marathon's not 5K. My marathon is 45 minutes, no matter how far I get, and then I need a break. That's just the way it is.
I got you, but like Mike said back in the day, he's like, unless you can go like behind the scenes somewhere, it doesn't let up.
Right. And I mean, he would come on to us and sit at our table. So it's Rockstar Bob.
Right, but that's what I mean is like part of getting out and developing a base, right, or continuing a fan base is getting out and talking to your regulars,
Sure.
and they all know that.
Right.
And that's what my dad's trying to do. Is he's like, I don't need time for myself. I can get home and spend 3 days with myself.
But if you remember Hairball, when they would come and do that, they were already pretty big. I mean, the places were packed.
They were packed.
They would come and sit with us because they could relax.
But why? Because they could relax with us. They weren't bombarded with
Right.
questions. Right.
But the problem came in is that people would start coming over anyway.
Right.
And that's when they had to stay
They're
in the
like,
back.
But then they learned how to manage it where they would just stay back for the breaks unless they were feeling awesome or spunky. Then they come out or whatever. But
maybe the first break.
The first break, and then after that, like, no, we're just all gonna lay down on cots. No, I don't know if that's actually what's going on.
Right. But yeah, I understand that, but you know, they were able to manage. Hey, you know, because they faked they were in this conversation with us. They really were.
Right.
So when people come by, hey, thanks. You know, they were still being out there, but yet they were with us, knowing that we can fake this. So we're not gonna stress you out. You know, and maybe this is just me wanting to believe this, but I would imagine they found a little bit of serenity there because of we would let them be there and just be them.
For sure.
And they could play it off to other people.
Right. They can
and
play
still
it off
relax.
like, I'm pretending to talk to you, but I'm really zoning out and almost falling asleep for a second. And I can appreciate that because I think we, unlike other fans or people that are just dickwad idiots, and I'm really not trying to insult everybody else out there, but like take into consideration how hard it is for the artists out there.
Absolutely.
You know,
they're putting on that show.
They're putting on a show
energy
with their persona.
that you're enjoying.
Even just developing a persona takes energy.
Absolutely.
And then they have to have energy to the music and the show and to entertain you, and you're like, I love you. And so the second they get off stage, you're like, I want to know you. And they're like still having to put up a front.
I don't want to know you.
Well, it's not so much
I
that.
appreciate you being my fan, but I don't want to get to know you right now.
It's kind of like everybody wants to know me, and I just don't have the time. I can't put that, you know, I can't hear everybody's sob stories. My son just killed himself last week. Holy shit, and I have to get on stage and act excited. You know what I mean?
I can't remember. It could have been Happy for all I know. I really don't know. Somebody was telling us a story about that, where somebody was coming up and just telling them the most depressing shit about their life. And there's like, what the fuck you want me to do?
Right. They're like, I'm really sorry that you're in this situation, but 10 minutes later, I need to get on stage and act like super happy. Now I feel like an asshole.
Right. It's like, this is not the place.
They're like, what the fuck? I mean, the general public don't understand that. They don't understand how boring it gets to play the same fucking song over and over and over and over. Because to the public, they go to one bar and they're like, yes, they're playing Journey!
Right.
And the players are playing Journey, which I do every fucking 3 days a week. Oh my God.
The same
Journey the same
song.
fucking ding, ding,
ding. And honestly,
ding, ding, you know.
If we can promote anything to the general public, understand this. Every musician playing the songs you like, it's not that they don't enjoy playing them. It loses some excitement.
But they pull the passion out that they can.
Yes, they're struggling to get that out because that's what you want to see. And they're doing it for you because they appreciate you being their fan and they want to do that for you. But understand, they might appreciate the fanship you have for them, but they don't have the time or the energy to want to be your friend after that.
It's not that they don't want to be. It's just that everybody wants to be. And they don't have enough energy to do that.
It's and it sounds bad to hear it this way, but to have somebody come up to you and say, "We love you. Oh, you're the best." as good as that feels, when you hear that 75,000 times, it kind of loses its color. And it's not that you don't appreciate hearing that and that you're not appreciative of the person saying it to you.
Right.
You don't have a reaction to it anymore because it's dull.
Because you just reacted to it fucking 60 times.
Right, 74,000 times already. It's just, I don't know what else to do. And in my mind, I'm being mono. I don't know what to do.
And you're like, I appreciate that. Why do I feel like such an asshole that I can't be
and
excited
then that
and
tries
accept
on
that?
their
Right.
on their ability. So
Because like we said, most of these people are not egotistical, so they're not like, yeah,
Exactly.
fucking love it.
that's probably the biggest thing. They're not egotistical, and when you're telling them that, they're like, I'm happy to hear that. I don't know what to do. They don't know what else to do, because thank you is the best they can do, and it's meaningful enough. But beyond that, they just there's
But
nothing
because
else they
they've
can
said
do.
it 3,000 times a day, they don't feel like
It's enough,
it's even worthy.
right?
It's like, thank you.
It-
Because
it's
there's
losing
nothing
the
more that they could
enthusiasm.
say. They feel fake saying that.
Right.
They appreciate you, but they feel fake saying
Right.
that.
So I guess for what I'm trying to say is for the general public, if you're going to go and offer anything, express your appreciation. Keep it short. Keep it sweet.
And simple. But keep
Heavy
it
on the
honest,
short.
But honest.
Right. Honest but heavy on the short.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what response you get, don't take it personal. Just leave them alone after that. You should be able to satisfy your expression of appreciation. They know you appreciate it and they're happy, but then just leave them alone.
And that's,
Walk away.
Right, exactly. Keep it simple. Keep it short. So you can go up to somebody and be like, I felt like your guitar licks were especially original. Or you can go up to the drummer and be like, your rhythm was so awesome that I couldn't stop dancing. That's it. You just give
thanks, I
a
appreciate it.
little few descriptors. Keep it short. Be like, your lyrics, you just moved me with how you said them.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
that's all you have to do is something descriptive, but something short, and then you're done. And people will go, oh, this is something different than somebody tell me, you're fucking amazing, which they hear 5 million times.
Right.
So the 5th million time they're hearing it, you're fucking amazing, they're kind of like, okay, yeah. Say something different. Mean something different. Tell them how much it meant to you.
Or even if you can't come up with something original, admit that fact. I don't know what to say to express my appreciation for what you do.
I don't
But
even know
thank
what
you.
to say because what you did was so awesome.
Yeah.
There's your general right there. You want to be general? There it is.
General and original because you can't put it into words.
Because you can't put it in the words and
go.
you're telling them that.
Absolutely. Yes. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And
Exactly.
if they have time to say thank you, great. Otherwise, just walk away. You said your piece, and trust me, in their head, they're happy for it.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know you, they want to meet you, but they just, like we're trying to say, they don't have the time or the energy anymore, and you're going to actually make them feel bad in some degree because they can't express a thank you well enough anymore. Because
so
they
you
have to
say
do
something
so much.
original, and they remember that,
Right, absolutely.
and they appreciate that.
That's great.
Like, Eric, you are the most original person I've ever met in my life.
Damn fucking Skippy you
And
are.
I still love your stupid ass after 16 years.
I'm the best person on this planet that anybody will ever have the honor to meet if I grant them that privilege.
And now I want to punch you in the face because it's all ego, like Bobby.
And at the same time, if I wasn't laughing and be in the same breath, I would say, don't feel very worthy of the oxygen I breathe.
Okay, so that kind of balances it out.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what we're talking about tonight.
Yes.
And I think that should actually wrap it up.
Pretty much. I think we've talked a lot about the music stuff, and it was good. It was good stuff to talk about. I liked it.
I think so too. Yeah.
So,
Come out and see my dad, even though nobody knows who he is.
absolutely. Actually, you know what I will say is if you ever get out to this place in St. Paul, Minnesota,
yeah,
called
yeah.
Wolebski's.
Wolebski's Blue Saloon.
Yes.
Used to be the old Cancun for any partiers like me.
Right. Club Cancun is what it was called.
Club Cancun, and before that was North End Depot for people even older than I am.
Right. It's on, what is it, Larpenteur and Rice Street, I think it is.
Yeah.
Look it up, Google it.
It's a
Your dad's band is there often.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, I think this coming, I don't know if anybody will be there by this next Friday in this year. So
Friday they're having an event.
right,
Yes.
this Friday. But look them up online. Frequent it. Usually they start at like 6 or 7ish. They're the earlier group because it's a bunch of old people.
They're all old.
Right, so they're in
But
bed
we
by
love them
10:30.
because we're old, because even though we're like midlife, we're starting to get old.
That's
and we're
right.
like, this is kind of a good thing.
But hey, check them out. They're fantastic. If you're into blues, if you're not into blues, it's still music to appreciate. So
We're not big yet, but if you're into us, you can show up and try to guess who we are.
that's right. Come find us, man. That's awesome. Thanks for listening. Comments and praise is fantastic in the reel. And that's our podcast for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.